Hello, Mark.
Hi, Dan.
Thanks for joining us. Is this how you speak and look now? So Mark currently is sitting with me wearing his sunglasses.
It's because it's very sunny, isn't it?
It's very sunny,
Yeah.
and it's not
It's
at all.
gone in now.
It's not
You can
at
get
all
away with
because you've just won an Emmy, and you now obliged to look American.
It's the way it goes, isn't it?
It is,
Some
yeah.
sort of course you have to go.
This
on.
is this your first Emmy?
It is.
Yeah. Oh,
'Cause actually,
congratulations.
although Sherlock has won a lot. I haven't had my own, so everybody else seemed to win one last time.
Yeah. Oh wow! But unfortunately, you couldn't be there.
Couldn't go because I'm rehearsing the boys in the band. Yes.
Which, so for people that are listening and thinking, what's with all the noise in the background? We're, I was going to say, joined by Mark, but actually, in a way, I'm joining you
Very much
in your
in a
office.
symbiotic way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a bit about what you're doing at the moment? You're in this.
Well, we're at Park Theatre in Finsbury Park, where we're doing a revival of a famous American play called The Boys in the Band, which was essentially sort of the seminal gay play. It's the first actual play with gay men in it, as opposed to sort of coded versions or in a sort of Tennessee Williams way.
Okay.
And it's an extraordinary piece of work. It hasn't been done here for 20 years. And it's
Where was it on when it was first put on?
Here. Last time.
Yeah.
It was on in the West End at the Albury, I think.
Okay.
Started at the King's Head, actually, and then transferred. But the original New York production was a sensation. And, you know, it changed the landscape. It was just like everything. It was about 18 months before the Stonewall riots. Everything sort of, it was one of those moments, you know. But it's really interesting. It's always been very controversial because it's essentially, someone said to me, what's it about? I said, it's about 9 self-loathing gay men in a New York apartment, 1968. And then they said, why do you want to do it? I said, it's because it's about 9 self-loathing gay men. But it's a very particular snapshot of a time. But equally, I think what's really exciting about doing it now is to see how far we've come or how far we haven't. And actually, an awful lot of its themes seem to me to resonate.
So it's still set in 68.
It's very much
You're
set
not,
in 68.
updating it, yeah.
But it's actual. It's very, very funny, very catty, nasty play.
Yeah.
But its actual themes are very relevant, I think, very powerful.
And you're doing this with your husband?
Yes.
Is that a wise move?
Well, yeah, everyone's asking us. Ian said the other day we were on Graham Norton's show, and he said we do actually like each other.
Yeah.
But obviously, I suppose it's the work thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've done a bit of TV together and a bit of radio, but this first time on stage is going fine so far.
Good. You've presumably been rehearsing a lot?
Yeah, although I don't actually come into it till the end of Act 1, so I've got quite a long... It's a big build-up.
Yeah.
Like the Iceman cometh.
See, my girlfriend for a very long time was like, we should work together, and I just had it in my head that it would be disastrous.
It may be, who knows?
Well, we did it recently in the summer, and it was brilliant.
There you are.
You have a shorthand that you don't really have.
I mean, yes, and I'll tell you, one of the biggest things about if your other half is rehearsing a play, it is beholden upon you to run lines with them. And it is, of course, one of the most thankless things. Don't tell me. And then you squeeze it out, and then you get cross with each other.
Yeah.
But if you're both doing it, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
because
a really
actually
good
you're doing stuff in the same. Then you sort of need to bring a third party in to help you with the other lines, and then you can get cross with them.
Yeah, because I've helped my girlfriend read her lines for auditions and things, and it's like the worst thing in the world. She finds all direction like a criticism, or her fuse is so short when but then when we worked together and I directed her in something I'd written, it was wonderful.
That's really good. No, the shorthand is that's a vital thing, really.
Yeah.
I think, and we always had that in the League of Gentlemen. A kind of we finish each other's sentences, and we used to have this thing all the time where, because every single interview we've ever done, someone will say, how did you come up with it? And we used to have this shorthand thing. We sort of look around each other, and one or other of us would just go, and then they'd volunteer to tell the story. It was like, it's your turn.
Yeah. Well, also you do tell these things over and over again over the years.
Do you find I refine them like a joke?
Do you?
And you end up thinking, I'm boring myself. I think I've heard myself say this so many times, but I have now got it down into a kind of haiku of here is the very basic version of.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes you should just have a little like a card or something, and with ready-made answers.
Or start lying.
Yeah, and
like
just
people do.
create a whole new backstory.
Michael Gambon got so bored years ago doing interviews. He started to say that he had once been gay, but had changed his mind,
and this was just completely.
And it went on and
up.
on, and
I
eventually
love it.
someone said, "What happened? What changed your mind?" He said, "It made my eyes water."
Oh, that's amazing. It's a shame. It's a shame that that we have to say the same things over and over. But
I might lie to you throughout this interview.
Well, I think
Maybe I already am.
is this that Emmy's not real, is it? I'm worried that this is the closest I'll ever get.
No.
I love that you brought a BBC Worldwide bag.
Well, I must explain. The Emmy is here not because I've been carried around with me, but because I went in. Steve Moffat and Sue Virtue went out to LA, and I went into the Sherlock edit this morning, and so they brought me the Emmy. So that's why I've had to bring it to rehearsals. I'm not carrying it around like a pack animal.
No, of course not. I mean, that would be such commitment to your ego because it's so heavy. So you're doing this play, and I've noticed over the years you do plays regularly, right? And yet you write so much stuff as well, and you act on screen. How do you do this? How do you fit this in? Because it's not like a play, something you can just phone in. You commit to months.
Wait.
Well,
if
you want to see Mark Gatiss phone in a performance, come along to the Park Theatre.
When it works, when a year works well, the balance is really fine. I was writing Sherlock half of last year, filming Sherlock April to August, and now I'm doing a play. So, and in between I've been writing bits and pieces. So if it works like that, it's okay.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, you ask at a very sensitive time because I am currently. I have collided with a horrific deadline at the worst possible time. So sometimes the answer is not very well. Is the answer?
Is this valuable writing time right now? Then
no, it's fine because I've got to come in for rehearsals anyway. But no, sometimes it works fine. Other times it's a bit of a car crash.
Are you good? Are you good at? I can only presume you must be because you are because you do so much work. But are you good at that kind of spinning plates? Because I find I need one thing at a time.
But to be honest, I am good at it. But I also, when it very occasionally happens that I'm just completely focused on one thing, I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I always think I should do this more often. In fact, I know I should. I've turned down a couple of things from next year, beginning of next year, really to just give myself exactly that. Give myself focus on the thing I'm doing. Right. So, but I'm good. I write best early in the morning, and I can get up very early and kind of carve out that marvelous time before anyone's around.
How early is early?
Maybe 5 or 6.
Are you serious?
Yeah, not all the
That's
time,
right.
but I can do it. And if I'm in the mood, there's nothing better because it's the concentration is so good, and then no one starts phoning up or anything before 9 or 10, so you can get a lot. The trouble is I always forget, and you get a kind of amnesia about it and then you think, this is amazing, and then you realise at like 2:45 that you want to die. 3 in the afternoon,
because it's
and then
like
you go to bed
8 at night for you, isn't it? Yeah.
So you can't really do it both ends.
Do you have a trick or anything? I find writing in the morning for me is like there's layers of other things I need to get through. I tried doing the artist's way thing where you write the morning pages. Have you heard about that? But that just ends up becoming a kind of a purge of.
I don't think that. I mean, everyone has a method, don't they?
Yeah.
But it's all haphazard, I think. That's all I can say. I know I definitely am better in the mornings. I feel fresher. I feel clearer. I always have to start from the beginning. I have to reread it. I can't just plunge in.
Yeah.
But if I can get in a zone, and I can write for ages, and I think that's rather than doing like 2 or 3 hours every single day or something. If I can really, it is like play. Or you can sort of imagine. You can see the whole script in your head, and you can kind of you think, right. But anything that breaks that, you're kind of out of it.
Yeah. So then that would make me think you would doing the kind of multitasking would get in the way of that. But
I couldn't. There's no point in me coming here with my laptop and trying to do 45 minutes between rehearsals.
No.
But if I have like a whole morning like today,
Yeah,
before I come in. I can do it like that. And sometimes when I'm filming, if it sounds ridiculously Hollywood, but if you're stuck in your trailer, caravan,
Yeah.
three-way, if you're stuck in your three-way for hours, waiting to get called, or with nothing to do between like one shot in the morning and another in the evening, that's like amazing. I find that brilliant that time. Because I mean, basically, what do? You sit and read a book, or twiddle your thumbs, or eat too much.
Well, you've got a whole other job that other actors don't have.
But
that
it's
you
also
can...
kind of what's interesting is it's a kind of prescribed piece of time.
Yeah.
Your hours are. It's like a kind of structure.
Yeah.
Which, if I was just sitting at home with all day, I might not sort of respond to.
So sometimes you go, God, I hope they only use me in the morning and the afternoon. Whereas other actors are like, I've got nothing to do. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I think that I've got better as I've got older at being able to go, okay, I've got 2 hours here, whereas I used to be, maybe it's just mortality. You're like, I can't wait forever for the muse to come. Do you know what I mean?
No, but it is
I'll be dead soon.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? You just think, when it's flowing, you think, oh, why isn't it always like that? Because that's why it isn't always like that.
Why do you do, like on a personal level, why do you do so many things? Is it just...
Mania.
Avoidance.
I was genuinely a very lazy child, and I think I have I could be very lazy.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a way of not being lazy.
What's the difference between? Do you find working on stuff that you create that's genuinely like created from the ground up, like League or original, compared to stuff that existed before, like Doctor Who or Sherlock? Or
it depends. I mean, the thing is, with Sherlock particularly, it's mine and Stephen's vision. It's our version of it. So.
And you often get credited as the creators of Sherlock, which is a kind of interesting...
Well, we're the creators of Sherlock, not of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
But there was some precedent before. But although we do sort of... we go back to the stories to a greater or lesser extent for every series. As a concept, we are completely... honouring. I mean, that was the point of it. That is the point of it, was to go back to Conan Doyle and say, it doesn't have to be all about the hansom cabs and everything. It's about these two unlikely friends.
Yeah.
It's a flat share concept. And he was one of the greatest writers, perhaps the greatest short story writer we ever had. He was an amazing genius. Mm-hmm. So we at every stage we said, we've completely resisted any effort to do Sherlock novelizations, because we just want people to read Conan Doyle because he's the master. So
no, like comic book spin-offs.
No, we've done comic books, but they're of our episodes, nothing else. No, nothing original. Nothing.
Do you think that was something that in some of the other adaptations of it got lost, the friendship thing?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we were kind of inspired by there was sort of too many in a rush of things that just seemed to be all about the trappings, not about what it is and the reason why people liked it in the first place. So it was a sort of restoration rather than a reinvention.
And it's interesting you say that. Do you think that, I've just thought of this now, but do you think that's also partly because you both come from having made comedies, that so many comedies, especially sitcoms, are about unlikely friendships? Or
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, the thing is,
it's a drama.
People forget how funny the original stories are.
Yeah.
They are funny. Sherlock Holmes is a funny man. He's not, and I think it was a reaction against that kind of austere version, which seems to be terribly humorless and kind of grave and like some sort of monument rather than what he actually is. But I mean, it's the same argument as with Doctor Who. Terry Nation, who essentially invented Doctor Who, because it starts with the Daleks, and they completely rethought what they were going to do once the Daleks took off. And of course, he was Tony Hancock's gag writer and a great comic writer, and it begins there. And every periodically, when people sort of turn up their nose at the notion of comedy writers writing anything serious, you think, well, first of all, it's very hard to write comedy. And secondly, anyone who's actually alive knows that life is always a strange, bittersweet mixture of the two. There's no such thing as drama. and comedy in
I
that
think,
way.
and I think we're living in an era where that is happening more and more with a lot of especially in America, the half-hour comedies feel more like something between the two.
Absolutely, and it's reflective of real life. It's also reflective of a blurring of the lines in most aspects of society. You know?
I still think the best adaptation of Sherlock Holmes is Without a Clue. Have you actually seen it? What is that?
Just leaving a sort of pregnant atmospheric pause. It's a great idea.
It is a good idea. Not amazingly necessarily executed. But having said that, I haven't seen it for like 20 years.
Nor have I.
I'm
I've
surprised
seen
they
most
haven't
Sherlock Holmes films.
tried to do that
maybe
again.
I should watch it again.
Yeah.
It is a great idea, I think.
Well, these all shows, they must have been shows you loved as a kid, right? And books and all the things you've been so successful in. Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of, I am still pleasing the 8-year-old version of me, which I think is
the lazy 8-year-old.
Yes, it's the way to do it. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, Doctor Who and Sherlock Holmes were basically my two favourite things as a child, and that's what I've mostly done.
It's so amazing. I play this game sometimes. If ever I'm feeling a bit down about things, I go, look, just go back like even 5 years in a time machine and tell yourself what you do in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But when you're ambitious and in this business where you're constantly asked, what's next? We forget to just go, oh, this is great.
Yeah,
but your 8-year-old self, if you went back, not only does he find out you actually work,
you work,
but you work on stuff that you're a huge
and also
fan of.
time travel is possible, which would be the most thrilling thing of all, wouldn't it?
Oh, can you imagine if that was the least thrilling thing?
Fuck Sherlock. What about the time travel? How did you do it?
How did you
Where's
break it?
your
I'm
head
the
gone?
only person who could do it. Like Dan said, here you go and talk to your 8-year-old self. How quickly from finding out that you're working on these shows and creating them and being involved in them, does it go from joy to, holy shit, I better not fuck this up? Or does it not at all? You seem like quite confident.
No, it's not that. It's holy shit, deadline, holy shit, so much to do.
Yeah.
Not about expectation. I mean, Doctor Who, I was one of those who kept the flame alive in the dark years.
Right.
When it was off the air.
What is the dark years?
Well, it was off the air between 89
and the Paul McGann
and the brief Paul McGann movie, and then 2005 when it came back. But I didn't think it would come back. I just thought that was it. But I was immediately, Russell's version of it was immediately thrilled by, because I thought it was so bold, and that is of course why it succeeded. It wasn't a sort of Nearly version. He said, no, we're doing 45-minute episodes. We're not doing 4-parters. It's got to be its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
The first Chris Eccleston's season doesn't have any alien planets in. It was like, let's not go to a quarry. That's what people expect. Very clear, very clever.
It was the Alan Bleasdale.
And from the
Doctor
companion's
Who,
point of view,
Yeah.
So I was, much more sort of bold than I would ever have been. I suppose. And so there was just this risk, I suppose, in the sense of obviously a huge existing fan base, but also one that didn't have a show anymore. That was increasingly just talking itself into a circle. And then
you could say the same about Sherlock in a way. There wasn't like this. It had recently been on, and people were like, "We love this show." Did it? In my memory of it, it feels like I was talking like it was years ago, but it's like 5 years ago now. It's like 6 years ago.
Six
God,
years,
it felt like it just immediately was a hit.
It
like
was.
Some things.
No, it's not.
Take their
it's
time.
not your It's literally what happened. It was like something from a Hollywood film from the 30s. Benedict was an overnight sensation, and when we did the pre-publicity, obviously Martin was the name, and he was an overnight sensation. That was it. It was extraordinary, and it'll never happen again to us. It was it was like bottled lightning. The timing, the casting, the writing, everything just clicked.
The alchemy,
and it was just its moment, and it really was like that. And I remember we had a press screening, and we were anticipating people saying it won't work. Oh, in fact, we had one of my treasured possessions is a preview from The Independent, without seeing it, which said you can't do Sherlock Holmes without gas lamps and top
Yeah.
hats and handsome cabs. And he actually said, in protest, I'm going to go home and watch one of the Basil Rathbone films. And I thought, well, you have a choice of 2 out of the 14 because the others are modern day. Prick. But I didn't say that. But actually, after this person had seen it, they printed a complete mea culpa. Said it works, it's brilliant.
Oh well, at least they did that.
At least they did that.
I mean, how exciting that must have been for you guys.
It's a bit dizzying, really.
Yeah.
And we've just made 3 more, so we've made 13 films in 6 years.
That's so cool.
And its reach is amazing. I mean, incredible. It's used as a diplomatic weapon by the Foreign Office, I think, to try and destabilise foreign regimes.
Yeah, well, we need those. So, the BBC must have been like, please do like 6 a series, or
well, in a funny way.
But they're an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
Yeah,
of,
that's 3 films
Yeah.
to shoot in 4 months
yeah.
is a lot of stuff. But not really. Actually, it was a very easy commission because Sherlock Holmes is the most filmed character in all fiction.
Mhm.
It's Sherlock Holmes, Dracula, Tarzan, Robin Hood, I think. So it's everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's not period, so it's cheaper.
Yeah.
So that part was easy. We had a few sticky
And
moments
for the
along
first
the way.
season, unknown actor,
Yeah,
cheap.
yeah, cheap
Cheap.
actors. First season, but after that they've kind of left us alone. And I think weirdly the age of that thing, which used to be a very American thing. I remember the early days of the League of Gentlemen. We did some live sketches live at BBC Showcase, which was then quite a small scale thing in Brighton, which has now become like Comic Con itself. And I remember an American saying, can you do 38 next year? And you go, no. But I think that sort of passed away because the Americans and therefore all other broadcasters are asking for more bespoke things.
Yeah.
They're doing more 6-parters and 10-parters
And even on network television, I think they're doing it as well.
So I think that's kind of gone away. I mean, they'd always love more.
Yeah, of
and the
course.
gaps between seasons. But really, it's something that happened accidentally. We fell into this pattern of doing 3 every couple of years. But if we hadn't, we wouldn't be able to make them anymore because Martin and Benedict would be too busy, too famous. Whereas they can actually do it every now and then.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons it was successful is you just couldn't imagine it. As soon as it started, you were like, oh yeah, now I can't imagine like an old Sherlock, and I can't imagine 2 other actors. And
when we did the Christmas special, which was Victorian, as a one-off.
And then everyone's like, you can't do it.
No, they did.
Really?
I mean, we had virtually the same journalist say, well, how can Sherlock exist in a world without iPhones?
Yeah.
You go, I mean, we've done something right, but it's like, there is some precedent.
Yeah, that is hilarious. The Comic Con thing, I mean, it's such a wonderful thing to tap into a genre or a type of TV and film that really connects with those sorts of audiences. And you've sort of done that with almost everything you've worked on. And just that fandom thing.
A Venn diagram of my retirement.
It's good. I like that. Where can we get those? Do you miss going back to something that's very British, like with the League? I mean, when I spoke to Reese, he said that you had talked about maybe doing something.
Yeah. No, we'd love to. No, I don't. I mean,
do you feel like you've not been in that sort of world for a long time that it would be, or do you, in your head, it was like yesterday and you could just...
Oh, yeah, well, it does feel like yesterday. Of course it does. It's years, and I'm constantly approached by people who say, I loved your show when I was a kid.
Oh, no.
It's frightening.
That is frightening.
Thank you. What?
Yeah.
But it's not so much that. I mean, I don't got like getting your head turned or anything, because the Comic-Con sort of stuff with Sherlock or with Doctor Who, you have to disconnect yourself from it because it's mad. I mean, it's not in a pejorative way. It's extraordinary. The scale of something like San Diego, there's people dressed up, and also, of course, people's demands on you. They start to demand things, so you have to shut that off because you go crazy.
Yeah.
But I think I still, I used to do an awful lot of stuff for BBC 4, which I love doing, and I might be doing something for them next year. I hope so. And I do rather like that, just sort of doing something over here in a quieter way, without either the weight of expectation or the scale. Really,
Yeah.
you can just sort of do
Is-
that.
Yeah,
That's nice.
it's the TV equivalent of putting on a play, I guess,
Yeah,
in a way.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it feels less
like this
international.
one that
Yeah.
I'm doing now.
Yes. Which, by the way, when does that? You should plug it and say.
We open a week today on September the 28th
Mhm.
till October the 30th. And then we go to Manchester, Lowry, Brighton Theatre Royal, and the West Yorkshire Playhouse in Leeds for a short 3-week tour.
And whilst you're doing that, you're going to be writing several series.
Christ
of
knows.
different-
I don't know. I've been trying to catch up with my deadline.
Is there
I've just
anything-
finished my new Doctor Who, though, so that's
Oh,
done.
good,
I'm very excited
good.
about that.
And is there anything that you're not very good at, like cooking?
Yes.
Is your personal life in tatters? Like something to make me
No.
feel better
Oh,
about
no, I can't.
all the many
I
things
can't
you're
cook,
brilliant
I
at?
can't drive.
Okay.
I can't play a musical instrument. I can't speak any foreign languages. This is really all I can
God,
do.
suddenly I'm looking.
Yeah.
I'm looking at
Sneer
you in a
at
whole
me. Yeah.
whole new light. So yeah,
This is really
rec-
all I can do. And it's,
Yeah.
I'm so lucky because it's all I could do.
yeah.
The only other thing I ever wanted to do was be a paleontologist. And I used to correspond with the Natural History Museum. I really thought about it because I was an avid fossil collector. But the A-levels were beyond me.
What did you study when you were at university?
I did drama degree.
Oh, okay.
with
Because
Reece and Steve.
I was talking to Rich Fulcher the other week, and we were talking about how people go to, expensive, prestigious colleges and study science or history, and then they decide to become a comedian.
Look at Ben
And-
Miller.
Yeah,
Ben Miller is like, should probably be at NASA.
yeah. And you think that's such a strange
I know.
choice, isn't
and
it?
But it's funny that it's a funny thing because you imagine you very much put people into little things. You think science, arts,
Yeah.
but there are people who are like Da Vinci who are just infuriatingly can
Yeah.
do them both. And Ben's one of those. And also a curious thing I know several actors who were nearly professional footballers,
Yeah.
and you think that doesn't seem right at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jason Watkins, Michael Sheen, very nearly a footballer.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
And imagine
No.
he might now be playing international for
Are you
Wales and just doing funny impersonations in the changing rooms.
Yeah, yeah. Which would have been a good career as well. Are you like me, where you just assume people in the arts or that did acting or comedy or were people that were no good at sports, so they went there? 'Cause
And of
that's
course
how
that
I
is
always
mostly
feel.
true.
Yeah,
But then there are these extraordinary
Yeah,
exceptions.
these
aren't there?
exceptions. So, I was chatting to Reece, and he said you would like to get. Have you talked more about that? I'm sure
A
people would
little
love
more.
it. if
I
you-
mean, we've approached this period which happens every 2 years, which makes the theatrical press always go a bit funny, as if there's some conspiracy where we're all doing plays at the same time. It genuinely happens every 2 years, and there is always
This
something
has
in the
happened before,
stage.
so
Yeah,
it's
it's happened 3
really-
times before. There's genuinely a headline on the stage saying the league take over theatre. No, we're just working. But they're always looking for an angle, and there isn't one.
it is.
But we are meeting again towards the end of the year to have a chat about because it's over 10 years since the film, and we've never split up
Yeah.
in that way. So
Yeah,
we'd
yeah.
love to do something. I don't know what.
See, he revealed something to me that I never knew about you guys, which was that you often worked writing-wise in 2 pairs.
Yes.
And I never knew that. It's kind of like the Python
Seamless.
thing. Yeah. Because
Good.
it all feels so,
Oh,
it
that's
doesn't.
good.
Yeah. And now that we know what their show with the 2 of them looks like, or 2 shows in fact,
Yes, yeah.
what would a Jeremy and Mark show look
Oh, sadder, I
like?
think.
Would it?
I don't know. I suppose.
I mean, there is a
I
lot
suppose
of...
that's the stuff that kind of. It was that flavour which made it the League of Gentlemen, wasn't it? So the balance between the 4 of us. So
Yeah.
yes, I mean our stuff was always.
I'm imagining,
Pathos.
because Jeremy doesn't perform, a show you 2 would make would be you wandering the plains of...
Being
I don't know.
miserable.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose
Wistful looks into
all
the distance.
our influences were Alan Bennett and Eric Chappell, great sitcom writers, great northern writers and actors, and so that's a very strong streak through us. Is that kind of melancholy, really? And I
Yeah.
think it's what people, amongst all the madness. I mean, that's something that we always used to love about doing the show, was that it had it was sometimes extremely silly. People always bang on about it being dark. Some of it is so silly.
Yeah.
Just straightforward, exploding dogs and fart jokes.
Yeah.
And some of it is so dark. I happened upon a bit of the Christmas special on UK Gold.
Yeah, that's
the other
also, that's
day.
like the children saying, I loved your show. Being on Gold is the equivalent, isn't it?
I think we've always been there, not getting repeats. And I just thought, Jesus Christ, how did they allow us to let this out? It's so strange and very disturbing. The bit where Papa Lazarou kidnaps the young Bernice, in that is like, it's like an assault.
Yeah. It feels
really
like it would be harder, not impossible, but definitely harder to get that show.
Yeah,
made
I mean,
now.
when we were talking about possible ideas about what to do, if we could come up with something, I said, why don't we do a mock documentary where we just sit and go through all our old stuff and just go, couldn't do that, couldn't do that, and then just fade. That's all we've got left.
When did that happen? Because it felt like, I was doing comedy at the same time, and it felt like we were talking about when it was hard to get stuff off the ground in the past. Now we're talking about when it was easy to get stuff.
I know. But see, that's the same. You don't realise you're living through a golden age as you're living through it.
Which is another reason why working in drama, not to like say that each thing is exclusively that, but it is a golden age in drama, definitely.
Yes,
definitely. So
I don't know when did it change. I mean, it's gradual, isn't it?
I think there was
some of it is depressingly familiar. The reliance on flavour of the monthness. I remember having a meeting about something just after Slumdog Millionaire had come out, and the entire meeting was dominated by the Slumdog effect. And you go, well, it's great, but this time next week you'll have another effect, which you'll want to warp this project into. Or, when Miranda was a huge unexpected hit, everything was suddenly straight down the line, funny, pratfalls, not a shred of darkness. And then you think, and I always think, well, but you're the same people sitting at home as us, and you want to watch a variety of different stuff.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily variety.
Yeah.
Although that's bad. But you know what I mean? It's like, but there's you so often get that 3-line whip thing of like, no, this is what people want now.
Yeah.
And until the moment someone does something different, James Holmes, you're stuck in that. It's amazing. The amazing James Holmes.
We're just sort of recognizing each other in the middle of. I 100% agree. I had this. I was commissioned to write a sitcom for BBC One, and I foolishly thought, well, what you do is you sort of present it like a BBC One show, but you under the radar get some like slightly. I hate to go to this word always, but darker themes or edgier or. Slightly left field, and I'm talking just marginally. And the notes were. This was in the wake of the success of Mrs. Brown's Boys. I'm not even. This is verbatim. Could you make it a bit more like Mrs. Brown's Boys? I'm like, well, no, because I'm not the writer of Mrs. Brown's Boys. And that kind of following a hit and then making sort of pale imitations.
A poor version of it,
It just never works.
It never goes away.
Yeah.
You can sort of understand the instinct to have, let's have some more of that.
Yeah.
But people aren't fooled. What they want is that.
Yeah.
And they'll wait until it comes back again. But if you try and, I mean, if you've got something which is a nice sort of hand in glove fit.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd accidentally, here's a perfect example from years ago. Paul Jackson told me this years ago. They made the young ones. BBC had made the young ones because, in a rare instance of being ahead of the curve, they were aware of Rick Mail and Aid Edmondson,
that scene,
that scene, and they didn't know what to do with it. And it was on a shelf, and it was possibly in danger of never being shown. And then Channel 4 broadcast 5 Go Mad in Dorset. And it was on within minutes.
Wow.
And suddenly, and I remember it well, there was a moment. It's them again. And there's a series. It's exactly what you want. But it was an accident.